let's see what we got. What's up, y'all? Just making sure everything is looking good. This is mostly a test stream. I'm trying some new things out here, so y'all bear with me. Trying to make sure this dual output. I'm trying to stream in the output to where it looks good on the cell phone in the vertical format also. Just trying to make sure y'all good over there. Okay. But yeah. Tonight is gonna be real short, to the point. I'm just gonna stream a debate. Debate that, you know, I think is very entertaining, and it pertains to current events and kind of exposes, you know, a lot of what these MAGA Republicans have going on mentally. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay. Yeah. All right. And this is from Brad versus the World, his YouTube page. And this is a debate between, I know the streamer Destiny. This is the guy right here. And this is a guy that's involved in, he's going to be a part of the board to actually decide where the money is being sent when it comes to that $1.7 billion that Trump, you know, that slush fund that Trump has. So I'm going to dig into this a little bit, take a look at this debate. I'm going to provide y'all my opinion as usual. And I also got call-ins going, so if there's any conservative Republicans out there interested in debating me live, I got the call-in line up and running. So yeah, let's get it.
No settlement money will be given to any J6er who assaulted a police officer.
No, I won't promise that.
Because it's
How
DC,
so?
because all the jurors are gay, all the judges are Democrats, and all their daughters are progressive donors.
I don't think that,
who
no,
are,
Steven,
I
do
don't
you
think
think
that's
the
what Mike
Supreme
is
Court's
saying.
That's your best example for how anything has ever been run like this before.
I'll answer the same question again for like the fourth time, Gary. I must be doing a good job because you guys keep asking the same questions again and again.
Biden didn't abolish ICE either. I don't even know where this comes from. Like, just none of these statements are even remotely true. They're all kind of goofy and unserious.
Partisan political employees handing out billions of taxpayer dollars to their political opponents' perceived victims. What could possibly go wrong? That's what I was left wondering after the Trump administration recently announced the creation of a $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund from the federal government, which will issue apologies and payments to people who are approved who feel that they were victims of government weaponization, primarily during the Biden administration. This fund will be administered by 5 people, each appointed by the Attorney General and subject to removal at the president's discretion. No judge will have to sign off on these settlements and payments, and the people in charge of this fund will seemingly have the ability to just issue out apologies and payments to whatever victims they see fit. That's a recipe for partisan payoffs and corruption, if there ever was one. This all stems from a lawsuit President Trump filed against the Internal Revenue Service after a contractor illegally leaked his tax returns in 2019. A textbook example of weaponization of the government, which, to be clear, is a very real issue and concern. But the weaponization fund is an inherently corrupt and flawed way to try to rectify this issue, and the administration, the Trump administration, has a huge hypocrisy problem to boot. This White House has itself repeatedly weaponized the federal government against the president's political opponees, whether it's their attempt to criminally prosecute former FBI Director James Comey for a social media post that, whatever you think of it,
Yeah, that James Comey situation is crazy. All he did was take a picture of some seashells that said 60, I think it's 6447, 6947, whatever you want to put it, whatever way you want to put it. That is just him taking a picture and posting it on Twitter. And he's getting indicted for some shit like that. So that's crazy. I mean, that's freedom of speech. Like, I don't get how you can be indicted for just posting a picture on Twitter. The sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, posted a picture of Joe Biden tied up in the back of the truck while Joe Biden was president. So the hypocrisy is real with these guys.
Is First Amendment protected free speech, or it's their attempt to retaliate and punish the Associated Press because they wouldn't use their preferred word choice for the Gulf of America or Mexico? Yes, that happened. Yet something tells me that these victims of government weaponization aren't going to be receiving any apologies or compensation from the new fund, especially because it is incredibly conveniently designated to expire on December 1st, 2028. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
I got one challenge for you. Try Whisperflow one time, and I promise you'll understand why.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, Mike, I'll start with you and get your kind of big picture thoughts here on why this is important and necessary for President Trump to be doing.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think a lot of terrible things happened, particularly during the Biden years, in which the whole of government and even institutions outside government went beyond the bounds of any legal or proper restraints, all in a mission to destroy their political opponents. And it's not just President Trump, who, of course, has had attempts on his life, and people tried to put him in jail through Looney theories time and time again. But it's a lot of people who, just by either being his supporter or ideologically aligned, like victims of FACE Act prosecutions, or, Catholics that were really targeted by the FBI, or even the victims of weaponized immigration policy, people who've lost loved ones to, illegal aliens that were shipped into the United States. And so for those reasons, I think compensation is needed. When the government hurts people, we should make them whole. This never should happen again, and I don't think it's happening now. I disagree with your assessment that the Trump administration is by any means weaponized, and it's time to take care of these folks. And the point I'll end with that is lost is, these allegations of corruption, which I think are far-fetched. President Trump was wronged deeply by the IRS. I mean, they allowed his tax returns not to be protected.
I would agree with that,
and
by the
leaked
way.
out. Right, and so we're forgetting the selfless act here that President Trump.
Yes, his tax reports did leak. I mean, it was a contractor that leaked his tax information, of course. He was wronged in that way, but he didn't have a case. I mean, it was way past the statute of limitations, so he didn't have a case. But he still somehow got a payout in this situation. Because he's on both end of this court case. He's the defendant and the prosecutor. So
Trump legally, and you could have political questions about it, sure, but he could have taken this money and put it in his pocket. And instead, he's giving it to a fund to serve a charitable and well-deserved purpose. And it's something I've been calling for a long time. And I think it saves the taxpayers a lot of money, actually.
Okay.
Because
Well,
it centralizes and caps it.
What I meant to say that I agreed with was that the IRS did wrong President Trump when the contractor illegally leaked his tax returns. I imagine we all agree on that. Obviously, that's not supposed to happen, and that guy was criminally prosecuted, and rightfully so. I don't necessarily agree that it is selfless because he is both the plaintiff and the defendant in the lawsuit, in that his own Justice Department, I mean, that's not really a functioning litigation system there where you are suing and then also in charge of the settlement with yourself. And that's what prompted this all. We will get into that more, though. I want to bring in Stephen here. Give us your reaction to what you just heard.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how deep we want to go or into the civics lessons of how unbelievable this is on so many different fronts. I mean, like you said, the idea that Trump has been abusing this position as being both the president, so he, in a lot of cases he is engaged in litigation as a plaintiff, and then in other instances, or in the same litigation, he's the defendant, so he gets to tell his DOJ, because we know that he gives them direct orders, to settle with himself. And then in this particular case, he is creating what is essentially a slush fund. And the creation of that slush fund is going to be headed by, where are our checks and balances? By members of Congress? No. By members of the judiciary somehow? No. By 5 people that the White House themselves can pick?
Nah, there's no oversight. There's no congressional oversight. There's no type of judicial oversight. There's nothing. I mean, there's nobody overlooking this entire process or overlooking the way Trump hands out this money outside of Trump and the people that he handpicks. This is corruption. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else anybody can see it any other way. I, it's hard for, it's crazy.
Nah, it's too much of Trump trying to govern literally directly from the White House, either because he doesn't know how government works or he doesn't care to operate within the ordinary bounds of the government. And we've already seen in the past, like when they talk about people who are victims of the government, they're talking about like Ashley Babbitt's family. The types of money that they're paying out here is just unbelievable. If you really think that you've been wronged by the government in some way and you want to sue the government for it, that option is still fully, completely available to you. I don't know why we would have to create a special fund for people in a way that is historically unprecedented. And I don't know why we would sunset that fund on December 1st of 2028. That doesn't make sense either, especially given that the origination of this entire case was Trump having his tax returns leaked by his own IRS. Like, none of this really makes sense from a civics perspective. My question would be, if you wanted to create a corrupt slush fund to award money to your political allies, what would you do differently than what Trump is doing here?
Well, there's a lot to bounce off. Let's try to recall everything in order here. But like, I find it funny that all of a sudden, everyone thinks that Trump, as this unitary executive on steroids, actual power and authority over every aspect and function of the government. It's the left-wing position constantly that no, he does not, and there should be separations. And so when President Trump is, as an independent individual American, wronged, he still has the rights to sue the government, and it was the DOJ who settled it. And Todd Blanche, who bravely
you don't see any problem with that?
Why he chose to. Do I see any problem with President? No, I think the fund is terrific. I think it's
no, not with the fund. With the general principle of the president both being the plaintiff in a lawsuit against the administration and then his own appointees overseeing settling with that. That's not an adversarial process, right? They can just give yourself whatever deal you want. They literally work for you and can be fired by you, and they're in charge of deciding what settlement they give you. You don't see a problem with that?
No, if I saw a problem with it, I wouldn't be putting my name out there to help lead it and be selected to lead it. I think it's a...
That's a crazy response. I mean, Trump is essentially writing his own checks. He's writing the checks out as the government and signing the check out to himself. That's corruption. I mean, he's enriching, not in this instance, he's not enriching himself, but he's enriching those around him. And that's very concerning, especially if some of these people are violent and already proved that they are willing to attack police officers and members of the government for this guy. That's insane.
A terrific way to spend this money. And I think the freak out is not based on the form of, or the construct or the process even. It's that a lot of people on the left wanted these people to be destroyed, these victims' lives ruined. That was the whole purpose of this. And so I think it's less about the form of it, and it's the function of dealing with the rampant wrongdoing that happened. And it's also the scale argument is completely blown out of context. You know, the Biden administration spent billions of dollars on left-wing nonprofits just for the sole purpose of opening the border and rushing these people around, American communities while shutting down ICE. And so the President Biden outsourced his immigration policy before. That was done an adversarial process. And it's just, selective opposition here because we're getting at a central claim and thesis of what the left, with all of its cheerleaders out there, did so fundamentally wrong. And they don't want those stories told. And I'm going to tell them.
Well, let's talk about some of the victims here, or perceived victims, because I personally think that you and the Trump administration and others have identified some actual victims and then others not so much. Mike, I'll ask...
Well, can I ask a quick question real quick on that? Just
I would challenge that. Like, I don't think Donald Trump has any legitimate victims that he's mentioned yet. Nah, I haven't seen any, especially out of that January 6th group.
Just to be clear, if a future president, as a private citizen, 5 days before taking office, decides to sue the government, and then once he's in office, the DOJ decides, oh, wow, we're going to give you a settlement of $1 trillion. And the guy suing the government because he felt like before the government was just mean to him. Somebody in the IRS office is something mean. Would you support the president being able to do that?
Will anyone actually get a payout from Trump's weaponization fund this year? Well, according to our channel partners at Cal, it's really easy. You just download the app.
Gotcha. What is Mike's legal background? Is it anything or?
It's tremendous. It's about 15 years of sustained oversight advocacy and anti-corruption work, intense litigation in the civil space, and it's advocating for this very concept for 5 years.
Okay, so you think that having the plaintiff in a case and the defense in a case being representing essentially the same party and creating settlements with itself, how is that a healthy adversarial process that's delivering us like good rulings, like good and just rulings?
You guys want me to answer this question a third way? I can try to, but I don't think you're understanding the way I've already answered it. It's that it was settled by the Department of Justice and Todd Blanche, the Department of Justice. It was
settled by Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's personal attorney, or former personal attorney. Like, they are on the same team.
And President Trump himself in that settlement
they work
agreement.
for him.
He was the plaintiff here, and yes, absolutely, I understand that. And now the left wants to use this argument of unitary executive control that like exists only when it serves them to make that point, and I think that's bogus. I think again, arguing over the form is ignoring the function here. And if we're going to ask questions, I want to know, Stephen, do you support or think that President Trump deserved to get shot at?
That's a completely
No, I don't think anybody in the United States deserves to get shot at. I wish President Trump would say the same. But my question is
okay,
how is it okay that well, this is always clear. There's no question about this. I go out and I do public events. I don't like it when people are out there trying to kill each other for political opinions. I just wish the president would have that opinion, and I wish people like you were brave enough to ask him to put that opinion out there.
Well, hang on, Mike.
When it comes to both sides being,
I'm gonna.
Oh no, wait, real quick. Just on the Todd Blanche thing. Okay, so it's not. This isn't even a confirmed attorney general. This is an acting AG.
He's auditioning
right? Not even with Senate confirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have Trump has given orders to the DOJ in a way that we have never seen. My understanding, at least in my lifetime, if not in all of U.S. history. Like, what is the equivalent action of any prior president, Republican or Democrat, putting on social media, I want you to choose this prosecutor, Lindsey Halligan. I want you to go after these 3 people. And then they start filing bogus indictments, stuff. Sometimes it doesn't come back from the grand jury, valid. Lindsey Halligan is still the appointed prosecutor, even though she's not supposed to be legally, and they keep trying to kick her off, and then the DOJ keeps putting her back on. Like, how are we going to say that Todd Blanche is not taking orders from Trump when he's ordering the IRS to give a ton of money, or the federal government to give a ton of money to Trump, essentially as a slush fund to settle his own lawsuit? Like, in any other world, you would be screaming about corruption here.
Well, they should be, but this is a Trump cult. They're all in the same cult. They all believe the same religion when it comes to politics and this guy. And they will bend every which way to appease Donald J. Trump. It's just clear as day. They will completely fold on any morals that they claim to have.
Okay. Couple things there. Todd Blanche works for President Trump. Everyone in the executive branch, at the end of the day, works for the president. In particular, this case, though, the record's out there that the Department of Justice settled it on their own. Okay. And so we're talking about, did President Trump walk in and go to the settlement table and say, like, exactly like you were to do this or you were fired? You're arguing things that aren't in evidence. And as it relates to who he gets to pick, that's a prosecutor, of course he does. And if you want a comparison, since these are really compound questions you're asking me, look at the President Biden's administration, how Lisa Monaco and Merrick Garland were coordinating with the White House and state prosecutors that went after Trump's allies, and the whole web of weaponization, the very thing that right now we're trying to solve for, the innocent people that were harmed by the whole of government weaponization under Joe Biden. Now we're talking about whether the right form of fixing it is appropriate, because nobody wants to deal with the fact that these people were harmed in a bad way.
Well, let's talk about that.
There's victims out there.
Mike, sorry, Stephen. We have a lot to get through. And so one final question on kind of the structure and form here, and then we will get into the specifics of the potential beneficiaries of this and some of who should this help and how it's set up.
Picture this. You've got a big new website idea and your team is ready to go. Instead of taking
is there, under this model, where you can sue as a private citizen and then your own Department of Justice that you're overseeing then negotiates a settlement that then creates a fund that then you are allowed to decide how it is dispersed. Mike, is there anything stopping, say, like, I know this is probably your worst nightmare, but a President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if she were to run in 2028, if she were to sign on as part of an environmental lawsuit against the United States federal government for failing to act on climate change, right? Could she then, after taking office, negotiate a settlement, her own Department of Justice, to create a $100 billion Green New Deal fund that then she could appoint 5 people, just one with the consultation of Congress, but 5 political appointees to then dole it out? What would the issue be with that?
Yeah, like USAID or something to that effect.
Oh, come on now. Like, I know he just didn't deflect to USAID. Like, that was congressionally approved. Congress voted on that. But this slush fund, or the would-be slush fund in the scenario that he just presented, that has nothing to do with USAID. I mean, the way that they try to put things together is weird when you actually know the difference between these things.
Taxpayer dollars going out the door through a run roughshod administrative state.
Well, that's congressionally authorized, isn't
across
it?
the globe at
USAID?
scale. Yeah, sure, it is. It's the same. So is the money here, by the way. It's like
Not
maybe
for
the
this
entire,
purpose.
basically the entirety of
No,
the
it's
federal government, which is basically a make-work job for Democrats, 90% voting bloc. The examples are profound, but the problem for you guys is they're all on the side of the Democrats. That's how the federal government has operated in shipping money out over decades at this point. Americans are coming to realize it. And now that money can actually be spent to help people, the liberals who don't like it because they wanted to put these people in jail, they wanted them destroyed. And so to your hypothetical, I'm sure the Democrats will try any which way to fund things that they want to do because they always do that. But now the different things is I'm going to rely on you guys to all oppose it as vociferously as you oppose this.
Well, I will, gladly. But let's talk about then the victims, and let's move along here. So already we have
just for the record, these are not real legal. This is like the craziest take on anything related to.
Well, we don't need
how
to
our
get
legal system
into
works
the
at all,
legal,
but
the legality of it all. I think we should focus on the merits
Sure,
and
we don't have a legal
morality of
argument.
it.
It's not a real argument at all. That's the whole point, is that he's not even trying to put up a decent argument against what Trump is doing. He's comparing this stuff to USAID, which is a completely different scenario. Congress approved these appropriations to, be sent to these different countries to assist, United States, partners in different countries. I mean, it's a part of the country's, how should I put this? It only helps the United States if they can eliminate AIDS in Africa. It only helps the United States if they can eliminate diseases spreading from different countries. That's just common sense. Like, I don't get how us sending assistance to countries that need it is such a bad thing compared to what Trump is doing, is paying off his political allies.
I actually don't want to do that.
I would love to have a 1 hour
What were
legal
the
argument
legal
on this.
arguments
You guys
that-
can,
that you
guys, nope. I'm going to keep the floor here, and you guys can set up law debate time later if you want. But I want to talk about the people. So we've already got hundreds of January 6th defendants lining up to apply for this weaponization fund, which again, the payments are not going to be overseen by a judge. They don't even necessarily have to have a legitimate legal case. There will be some where they'll be past the statute of limitations for the actual alleged rights violation, but this, again, is not going to be a court process. It's going to be an extrajudicial process. So I'm wondering, Mike, if you were appointed, because it does say in the DOJ document announcing this that they will consider the morality of individuals who apply, will you promise that no settlement money will be given to any J6er who assaulted a police officer?
No, I won't promise that, because right now those terms are being decided by the Attorney General. I mean, that is subject to national debate. It's not up to me to determine the outward bounds of those things. It is to work
But if
within
you were put on the
framework that is
board,
established by,
would you support money going
but I'll tell you-
to somebody who assaulted a police officer, or no?
Well, I would. What the Attorney General has said is we would review the totality of the circumstances, which I would do. And I'll tell you what I'm doing so I can be prepared to do that. I'm reviewing the settlement agreement for George Floyd, who, obviously resisted arrest and got 20.
I think we all know what the answer to that question is. It's pretty much a yes. We will be seeing violent offenders getting money from the slush fund. We will be seeing people that actually attack police officers and injured police officers getting dollars out of this slush fund, our tax dollars. So, and at this point, there's nothing that, you know, the American public can do about it except get out and vote these midterms. And hopefully, if we get enough Democrats or left-leaning politicians into Congress, maybe we can impeach this president. Maybe we can impeach certain judges and, you know, go forward from there. Maybe.
27 million. The settlement agreements for Black Lives Matter rioters that settled with police and obviously resisted arrest. And so I want to see in the historical records of similar settlement agreements how resisting arrest or other kind of activity, you know, which is a matter of degrees, you know, played out on that scale. And so those are all things I'll study.
Wait, just to be clear, the resulting settlements that result from the adversarial process of two different parties fighting on both sides with an impartial and a mutually adversarial judge in the middle, whatever results from those processes, you can't simply look at dollar amounts and compare them to this, which is like a mediation/arbitration fund with absolutely zero legal oversight, with absolutely zero engagement from our judiciary, with little to no oversight even from Congress. These are not even remotely the same thing.
So, Mike, I just want to get clarity. Get clarity. So you would potentially be okay with money from the weaponization fund going to even violent January 6 offenders who may have assaulted police or were convicted or pled guilty to assaulting police officers. You won't rule that out.
Yeah, I'll answer the question again. That is the subject to the debate right now. The Attorney General went before Congress and they're arguing about that very point. And so I will work within the bounds that are set up for the commission. And then
the fact that it even has to be debated is insane to me. And Todd Blanche has been asked this question on the news, and he says that it'll be up to the board. So they're bouncing this question between each other and avoiding the question overall. And there's a reason why they're avoiding this question, because they know it's not a good look to actually honestly answer this question. So they're not going to answer it at all.
In doing so, in part, the standard of reviewing the totality of the circumstances in line with what the Attorney General said. You would look at the whole conduct surrounding any individual instance and what those bright line delineations are. Like, we will study to see how previous similar settlement agreements had worked and taken those things into account and make the best judgment of using the best, you know, use of funds to go to victims who most deserve it. And so you could take from that what you would like. But all this to say is when I am on the commission, if I'm lucky enough to be selected, I do not want to prejudge all these specific cases and draw the lines here with you,
but
gentlemen.
It's just the reason I ask is because
Mm-hmm.
the Department of Justice documents announcing this say very clearly the morality and character of these people will be considered. And
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I'm just kind of astonished to hear you say this, because my whole life I've heard conservatives as the party of back the blue, and now I'm hearing you would potentially be open to giving anti-weaponization payouts to January 6ers who assaulted police officers, who dozens of whom were viciously attacked and assaulted on January 6th.
Well, you can hear what you would like, but I would prefer you to listen to what I say. And I did not say what you just said. I said the decision for the line drawing is being made right now, and I will work within those frameworks that are established.
Which is no answer at all. Like, he's not providing any answer. And I can't believe he's getting away with it. I can't believe it at all.
Told you, I am in the process of studying the George Floyd settlements and other settlements with, you know, people who got into it with cops, and there are degrees of that, right? There's a difference between, you know, being on a barricade or something and not obeying an order and beating the crap out of a cop. Obviously, those things, with my background, you can expect what kind of judgments I will make, but I'm not going to prejudge specific conduct based off, you know, the phraseology that you wish to use here.
It's not phraseology. I mean, dozens of people pled guilty to and were convicted of violent offenses, but that's fine. You answer the question.
Sure.
You can answer it however.
Sure, we'll take another run at it. Do you think there's a difference between punching a cop in the nose or disobeying an order?
Yeah.
Both
Of
could
course,
be
I'm talking about the
assault.
violence.
Okay.
I'm talking about violence.
Then how do you draw the
assault.
line?
Yeah.
are you comparing disobeying an order to violence against a cop? Like, is this even a serious conversation anymore? Like, what are we doing?
Right. You're asking me to draw a
Charges
very
that are
particular
violent
legal
that they
line.
were found guilty of.
Okay, well then you're drawing another line. And then you're taking into account of none, to use Stephen's previous argument, an adversarial process with an adversarial judge, because they did not have that in Washington D.C. in these kangaroo courts, and so there's going to be independent fact
Sorry, what do you
finding
mean?
that occurs.
So now there's kangaroo courts. Even if they were found guilty, even if there's actual proof of them doing some illegal stuff, they just blame the court systems. These guys are some of the biggest victims ever, but they love to call black and brown people victims. They love to say that we have a victim mentality, but as soon as they feel like they've been slighted in the most smallest way, they will cry, file, and get reparations almost immediately.
Weren't they?
They don't
They
believe
were
in.
found,
They don't believe in courts. What do you mean? What does he mean? They don't believe in
January
the judicial
6ers
system.
were
It doesn't-
they
that's-
were processed.
Their rights
I'm-
were run roughshod in the D.C. courts. I think that is
Yeah.
something that I've
How
been saying
so?
for a very long time.
Because it's
How
D.C.
so?
Because all the jurors are gay, all the judges are Democrats, and all their daughters are progressive
I
donors.
don't think
who
that-
are-
no,
Stephen,
I don't
do you
think that's
the
what Mike
Supreme
is
Court's
saying.
That's
legitimate?
exactly what he's
Hold
saying.
on, no, not trying to put words. Let me ask you a question, Stephen. You've asked me a time. Is the Supreme Court legitimate, and do you respect their decision in the Voting Rights Act case?
When you say respect, do you mean like, do I acknowledge them as law? Yes, of course.
Do you think they're corrupt? Okay. You don't think it was like corruptly illegitimate or anything like that?
I think there are huge questions around Alito and Thomas and the perceptions of corruption based on the massive amounts of money that they are taking in.
What's
and
the connection to the January 6th?
Facts. I mean, Alito and Thomas are taking in money from Republican donors. These Republican donors are paying for their children's schooling and all types of houses and properties and vacation excursions and all this stuff. Republican donors are paying off the Supreme Court judges. And it's easy to find. That's corruption. I mean, but we still have to stand by what they've made, the decision that they made when it comes to the Voting Rights Act. We still have to acknowledge that. We can't just pretend that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So these guys are pretending like we're acting as if the Supreme Court is like some type of corrupt entity, and we're not going to acknowledge anything that comes out of the Supreme Court, which is not the case. We acknowledge it. We might not like it. We might fight back against it, but we acknowledge it. What you guys are doing is not even acknowledging the charges and convictions of the January 6ers. You're just ignoring the fact that there's video evidence of plenty of these people attacking police officers, breaking windows. And you're saying that doesn't matter. These people deserve money. It's like fucking crazy. I don't know.
Because I don't want to derail into Supreme Court ethics
Because
debate.
Stephen said did something about the courts. I won't put words in his mouth. He just
Do you
said
think the
them.
verdicts
Yeah.
that were issued in the D.C. courts were correct for the Jan 6 people?
No, absolutely not.
You don't think they were legitimate?
I think the Supreme Court agreed with me. The 1512 charges were thrown out, guys. Are you missing that whole point? It was a bogus charge hanged over these guys' head, and they were run roughshod through a very intense process, which was out of proportion with anything afforded to anyone in any similar situation, to include the Black Lives Matter rioters, which actually weren't similar because they were way worse. They burned down a lot of this country and actually engaged in
they were quite
serious
different.
sustained behavior. Yeah, the BLM were worse, and they didn't get charged.
It depends what metric you're looking at, obviously. It's worse in the sense that
burning
more
down the
people
country?
died, absolutely. Yeah, but it wasn't, a targeted attempt to overthrow an election result and an attack on democracy. It was hooligans and protesters. And I think they were despicable, to be clear, and I wanted
Of which
them
there were like
prosecuted harshly.
15,000 arrests also, by the way. This idea that we didn't
But
prosecute
a lot of
Black
those
Lives Matter
charges
And
were
guess who
dropped,
settled with them?
unfortunately, Stephen.
The city settled with them, and
But that was a court case that people actually had to go through. Like, that's the point, that these people are not having to go through a court procedure to get this money. Trump is just handing it out. Like, I don't understand these comparisons that these MAGA Republicans are trying to make or attempting to make, especially when it comes to the BLM protests and the money that some of them were paid out.
I'm studying those settlement agreements to apply for the commission.
But luckily, but the thing is, Mike, though, in that case, the settlement was reached by adversarial parties, not by political appointees.
Was it? Because I saw Jacob.
Sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm getting.
Oh, no,
getting
go
hot
ahead.
here. I was going to say, was it adversarial in Minneapolis or Minnesota? You had Jacob Frey supplicating himself on the grave of George Floyd and then giving out $27 million to the family. That does
They
look
might be
too
sympathetic
adversarial to
parties,
me.
but they're not literally the same thing, right? As opposed to Trump versus Trump. But we discussed that. I guess when we talk about the purpose of this money, why wasn't this? If you want us to believe, Mike, that this is not a partisan thing, and the Trump administration did say in the documents Democrats can apply, but then why on earth is this not a bipartisan panel? Right? Why are these people not picked from both parties to hear these claims? Why is it expiring right before the Democrats would take charge? Do you have a reason other than it being partisan that could be the case, Mike?
Gym Monster 2 is an all-in-one home workout system that has a variety of resistances.
So I guess I can answer like what I would do if I was in the situation. But of course, the answers to those questions as to like why those specific language was put in was not made by me. I'm applying to be on the commission. I didn't set up the commission. I don't think the Attorney General has precluded, participation on the commission seats of any political party. I don't think he said that. If he has, I missed it. And so I don't know how to respond to that. As towards the expiration,
Well, why sunset it at 2028?
Yeah, why sunset it in 2028? Also, I don't think he's going to pick any Democrats or maybe one token. But regardless, sure, I get your point. He hasn't said so yet.
Yeah, I don't. Why do you sunset it? I think it's a logical date. It's the end of the administration. That's when you want the funds. I'll tell you this. So if I'm commissioner,
And that's convenient.
I won't need till 2028.
You don't want payouts in the next administration to people that were had the government weaponized against them, right?
As I said earlier, those people will get paid out. The entire Democratic Party and the federal, government has existed for decades to do just that, and they do that at scale. That's what USAID was. That's what everything else was. I have no doubts Democrats will use government to drive money to whoever that.
This is this is crazy. What he's trying to do is call USAID some type of slush fund for Democrats to pay off people, when this is what they're literally doing in front of people. Is creating an actual slush fund, not some conspiracy that USAID is a slush fund. It's an actual slush fund that they've created and sending to their political allies. This shit is clear as day. I don't know how people are choosing to ignore this shit, especially because of the fact that, MAGA and all these conservatives are talking about draining the swamp. They talk about transparency. They talk about, wanting to end corruption in the government. But they seem to have let the most corrupt guy ever in government. Like, I don't know. I'm about to end this stream. I think I got my good bit of engagement for the night. Let me see what's going on with chat right now. BLM didn't do by the hit reset button on everything this country stands for. It's their only tactic left to use. Trying arguments here. I agree with you. But yeah, I'm about to go ahead and wrap this up. Ain't nobody calling in tonight. But this is just a little test stream. I'm trying out some new overlays and some other stuff. I'm trying some new mods out in the stream chat. So y'all just bear with me. I might be testing out some other things over the next few days. But yeah, y'all follow, subscribe, hit me up, shoot me a message if you know any conservative Republicans or MAGA people out there interested in debating. Let me know. It says no super chats available. I don't know why. I might need to check that out, but I ain't tripping. I ain't doing this for the money, not really. But yeah, just support my content. Give me a subscribe. Give me a sub. Follow me on all the social media things. And yeah, just bear with me as I continue to grow and learn and, just do my thing out here. I appreciate y'all just watching, and see y'all next time.